ways. I know how they feel. They're great. They're loyal. They want to bang for their buck.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 45 of the LarschCast. On today's episode, we have number 55 of your Vancouver Canucks, Shane O'Brien. On today's roundtable, we got Jay, Nav, and myself, the producer, Gulu. Here is your host, Tej Dhaliwal.
Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.
All right, welcome everybody to a very special episode 45 of the LarschCast. Once again, I'm your host, Tej Dhaliwal, and I'm joined by my LarschCasters, Jay Douglas, Nav Dosanjh, producer Gulu, Nanda, and we have a very special guest today for episode 45. You guys know him as Shane O'Brien. He's a former Canuck. He's played with the Ducks, the Lightning, the Predators, the Avalanche, and the Calgary Flames. And I think you had a short stint with the Panthers. I don't know if we count that, though. But welcome to the show, Shane O'Brien, S.O.B. But I don't think he's an S.O.B. in real life, though. How you doing?
What's up, boys? Thanks for having me. I know it took longer than we anticipated. I apologize for that, but excited to be on here. This is actually my first technical Zoom meeting I've been on. So I've jumped on a couple with my friends in the background, but I've never done it myself. So this is my first Zoom podcast. So I love it.
Oh, that's good. I mean, we're happy to have you on too. We've been looking forward to this episode for a while. I think, we've had a few of your former teammates on, like Kyle Wellwood, and then Chris Higgins. You played with Higgins 1 year, I think.
I missed Higgy. I played against him, but he got there. He was on the team the year they went to the finals. So
yeah. So
It was a trade deadline acquisition. He was here at the deadline. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, actually, now that you mentioned that 2010 there, you actually just missed out on that magical team, that run that we had. What was it like for you, having been traded off of that amazing team and then having to witness and watch them kind of go on a run and, didn't get an opportunity to be with all your former boys and everything? Was it hard for you to cheer for them, or was it pretty easy for you to?
Well, it was hard for two reasons. The first reason, that year at training camp, personally, I knew I was in a little bit of trouble just with Aaron Roman and Andrew Alberts. Their salaries together, made the same as what I was making. So I knew from a financial standpoint that I was kind of in one. And then obviously it's no secret with, my 2 years in Vancouver with, me having a good time. And I got a little bit of, can we swear on this podcast? Can I say shit?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
swear all you want, buddy.
I got a little bit of shit there. And obviously the media in Vancouver, listen, I love the fans of Vancouver. I love the media. They're always great to me. I fucked up and obviously in the Canadian market, I paid the price for it. So, coming into training camp, we had such a good feeling that year that, the two previous years we lost to the Blackhawks, and, we felt like it was our time. We picked up Rafi Torres. We've got Keith Ballard on the back end. Our team was just coming together, and obviously, they got rid of myself and Darcy Hordichuk, and, I don't know if Ripper ended up playing that whole year or not. I can't remember, but, personally, I thought they fucked up a little bit of the team toughness, and in the finals that showed for sure when Boston started running around a little bit. And at the same time, dude, they knocked me out in the second round. I played for Nashville that year. We lost a hard-fought 6-game series against the Canucks. It was hard for me, man. I love those boys. I played with them for 2 years, and going back and having to play them that year in the playoffs. Yeah, man. It was hard.
Oh, I can only imagine. Well, thanks for being honest with that answer, because I can tell, it was tough for you. But, you spoke about the media, and I know you're involved with 650 now, and you're kind of on the media side of things, but we're just going to be honest with, in that regard. You have respect for what the media does, but what are your actual heartfelt feelings about the coverage that the Canucks fans or, Canucks players and being in a Canadian market? What's your real feeling and sentiment about that? No holds barred. How do you feel?
Yeah. You know what, man? I've been honest about it my whole time. The fans in Vancouver were fucking great to me, man. When I went out in the city, and granted, I say this all the time to people that ask me, man, we won every home game. We were, not every home game, but we were that good, man. People came into GM Place back in the day, and you wanted to fuck around. Hordichuk and Bieksa, myself, Glasser, Rippin, we were ready to fight. And, the Sedins would get their 3 points, and then Kess and Burr would do those things. And we were just so good. And it was fun to go out in the city. And the fans were great to me. I never had any problem with the fans. And, you know, when it came to the media, they were fair with me. You know, they obviously ran the story. You know, I popped off the 1 year about, you know, having to, you know, they asked me to fight and this and that, and I popped off.
I want to ask you about that. I mean, you
Yeah,
can
I got one of
just
that.
talk about it right now. Like, I'll just give a little bit of a background here.
Yeah.
What Shane is talking about. Basically, in 2009, like, so there was a game against the Sharks, and Daniel Sedin got speared, and then you and Mitchell went after them, and then later on, like 9 days later or something, there was an off-ice post-game altercation with Brian Clough and Joe Pavelski, and then, you know, it kind of stirred a little bit of the pot. You had a one-on-one meeting, I think, with Mike Gillis, and then all of a sudden it became a story. Somehow, whether, you know, from your side or their side, it leaked out that apparently Mike Gillis just wanted you to be a fighter, to be like a goon or a tough guy, and you basically you didn't think it was the right fit for you as a player. So that's the background here you're talking about. Go ahead and tell us about that.
Yeah, you're close on it. So what happened was I don't know if you guys remember, you know, that year we lost like 8 or 9 straight at home, or 8 or 9 straight home and away. I think it might have been at home too, which was even worse for us. So, you know, at the time, I think I was leading the NHL in fights, and you know, we had private meetings every player, and they called us all in one-on-one, and, you know, AV and Mike they asked me when the last time I'd been in a fight was, and you know what, I was just, as a player, I was pissed because I was, at the time, I think, and if not leading, I was top 5 in fights in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said to the boys, I said, Mike and AV, I said to AV, I said, listen, I've been trying, but, you know, we're down 1 or 2 goals each night. Like, I asked Clarkson to go the other night. He didn't want to go because they're up 2-0. Like, you know, so I just felt like it was a slap in the face because, as you boys know, you know, there's not so much fighting anymore. But back in the day, like, not everyone did it. And guys that did do it, like, you know, all we ever wanted was respect from it. And I was a little pissed off with Mike and AV, and the stupid dumb Irishman I popped off of the media. And next thing I know, boys, my phone's ringing from my agent. I got my buddies. This is great. You'll love this. So my one buddy was living up in like Port Moody or somewhere like way out, like kind of up north or whatever. And he texted me that day I got in trouble. He's like, well, what's going on? Like, I'm like, how do you know, man? And he's like, I'll tell you how I know, because they have actually, this is when I got in trouble for coming late to practice. He's like, they got a sports talk radio thing on 650. People are calling in. If you've seen Shane O'Brien yesterday, let us know where and the guys are like, wow. I seen him at Yaletown Brewery. I seen him at Global. I seen him at, and it was like 10 spots, and they were just running with it.
You're fucking building the rat culture right there, man. Holy.
Yeah, man, it was funny.
Dude, we've been in that situation too, where, like, you know, we say something on Twitter, or our podcast just comes out, and somebody just takes like a single quip and they run with it. They'll just run with it, and, you know, we're getting phone calls, tweets, this and that. Like,
people
you just say
hate us,
this,
man. We're just loud and like fucking controversial, but they hate us.
Are we the Shane O'Briens of the podcast world now?
You might be.
That's not a bad trait to have, man. I enjoy it.
No, but like Shane, seriously, like what happens is, like, so recently, I don't know if you saw, I mean, it's unfortunate we had to issue an apology, but we were wrong for going after somebody's credentials. But this guy in the media, he's just stirring the shit on TSN, you know, and he's like a anti-Canuck, you know, reporter. And there's a lot of guys out there they're not fans of the team. They just want to build their own names and reputation and be shit disturbers. And so, like, this guy, we've had issues with him. I've had issues with him. So we went after him. You know, we took the clip down. It wasn't the right thing to do, but we went after him. And then everybody, like, you know, Satir Shah on 650 drops like the truth. Like, yeah, it's not about the money with the judge. You know, this guy's right. And so everybody is like, oh yeah, you fucking goose, LarschCast, this, that. And then it got too big. People are telling me, like, you know, some people higher up are not happy with what we're doing. And so I had to issue an apology. But, like, the controversy aspect of it, like, it's plagued you your whole career. Like, what can you tell us about how to deal with controversy? And then maybe even, like, highlight, like, Jake Virtanen is a guy who's kind of picked up where you left off.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Scapegoat in the media and then fans. And, you know, this year, overweight, you know, coming to camp. He plays great in his first couple preseason games. He hits the ice running, and he's fucking on pace for 20 goals. So where's this controversy? It's built out of nothing. And he goes out partying one day. You know, what can you tell us about how to handle controversy?
Well, yeah. First, when it comes to Jake, listen, man. I don't know the kid personally. I've been a huge fan of his for the last 2 or 3 years. I've been doing this stuff with Sportsnet 650. You know, I'm good buddies with Travis Green, and I know Greener loves him. I know Greener was trying to push him a little bit at the start of the year to kind of get him going, but you know, I said this from day one at the start of the year that I thought Jake was going to have a great year, which he did. He takes a little bit of heat because he's a Vancouver boy. Hey, listen, I get it. You know, you're from British Columbia, your first round pick to the Canucks. There was pressure that comes with that. Is it right or wrong? I'm not the one to answer that. That's just the way it is. But I think he's done a great job. You know, I wanted him to be a little bit more physical. I think he's worked on that. I don't think it's naturally – I don't think he has it in him. I think it's hard for him to get in people's faces. And I think he's tried to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, man, he was on pace for 20. And I think he's done a great job. I think he's handled the media and he's handled it well for a kid. And you know, I heard he likes to have a good time every now and then. So maybe down the road I'll bump into him. We have a couple cold ones together.
Nothing wrong with that, though. Nothing wrong with having a good time.
You bumped into one of our buddies here, Nav, actually in Toronto. Nav, you want to share that story?
I don't know. I'm not sure if you're able to see this picture.
Yeah.
Move it over, Nav. Move it over.
Yeah, move it over. You gotta get the whole picture in there.
Nav, you gotta hold the picture in the frame and talk so the zoom goes to you.
Move it to your left.
Yo, can you see it?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, you can see it now, right?
Is that
Oh, there you
Glasser?
go.
Is that Glasser in the middle? Yeah, Glasser.
And you got Hordichuk coming in through the corner there. He wanted to be in the picture.
What was that at Music in Toronto or something?
There you go. That was at Music in Toronto.
Yeah, that was a sick night, man.
This was obviously you're not going to remember us, but we remember this really clearly. It was 2010. If you remember the game, it was a game you guys were losing to the Leafs 3-0 in the first period.
Yeah.
And you guys came roaring back and beat them 5-3.
Yeah, and then wasn't it when Matt scored the shootout winner or no?
No, I think that was the year. I think that was the year before.
Oh, okay.
So this was the year where Burrow scored, and then and the Sedins kind of went off in the third period.
Shocker.
Exactly. So first of all, we followed the team around from here. We went to Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. We followed you guys around.
It's a good road
and
trip.
Just to be villains in Toronto was, first of all, thank you very much for doing that. It was just so cool to see the Leafs lose. So the story is, so we ended up knowing somebody through a couple connections that said, hey, the Canucks are going to be at Music tonight. The whole organization, all the players are going to be at Music. So we're like, okay, first of all, I'm like, okay, bullshit. We're not going to get to party with these guys. We got to party with you guys. And it wasn't just partying with you guys as fans. We were kind of treated like equals. And I got to say, and I've told TJ this story before, is you were that one guy. And we talk about this 10 years later. Because we're like, Shane O'Brien treated us like we were one of the boys. Not like we were like, oh my God, these guys are like, oh, can we get an autograph? Can we take a picture? Even though we got a picture with you.
Yeah.
But there was like so many stories that night, like things that you were saying. And like we kind of learned who are the cool guys on the team. And I'm not going to say any names, but who are the couple of the jerks.
I know. You don't have to say names. I know who they are.
Yeah. Dancing on couches and stuff, right?
I know who they are.
So, there was one. I got to tell you, there's one. I'm not going to mention the player's name. But one of my buddies, he's always had games. He's had the gift of the gab to pick up girls, talk to girls and stuff. So, nice. He was doing his thing. And he walked over to one of your teammates at that point who was kind of sitting quietly alone by himself. And he goes, hey, bro, come over here, meet this girl. And, now there's four of them kind of party together. The funny story of that is Alex, the player, left with both the girls. And my buddy, whose name is TJ as well, not this TJ, another buddy, he's standing there looking into the cab while this guy leaves. And the funniest thing is, years later, it'd be like 5-6 years later, no matter where this guy played, what team he was on or whatever, he would still be like, I hate that guy.
And that's the power of the NHL card, boys. It's just, especially in Canada, it's like your boy did all the work, and then whoever this is takes the. We took both of them back. I wish your buddy would have grabbed me. Fuck, I would have helped him out. I would have let him come too. Hey, I would have been like, let's have a party back at the hotel.
I told the guy, I go, who would you leave with? I go, put yourself in the situation. If you're a female, who would you leave with? A guy that's making millions, or you that's probably making about 80,000? I'm like, I'll leave with him too.
Yeah, you gotta love Canada for that, right? You gotta love it.
But no, it was a good night, and I like I said, until this day, we always talk about how you were like, out of all the crew, you were like the most normal, down to earth guy that just partied like you're one of us. So I always remember you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jay, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different gear, but I was really curious. You came in under a new GM, Mike Gillis. He brought you up, and the Canucks were like doing things quite differently at that time. So I was just like, as a player, coming into a new situation, and it's new for the entire league. So it's not like those, that wasn't the standard. What was it like for you to come in and kind of be shooken up like that, or was it par for the course, or how did it feel coming into that situation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I actually got traded so we were over in Tampa, over in Prague, playing in the NHL Premier games, and we were over there for like 13 days before the game. So you guys can, you know, do the math on that one. There was a lot of nights out. So whatever, I had a bad training camp. I got traded to Vancouver, and, you know, I remember Mike pulled me in his office right when I got there, and I was tired or whatever. And you know, he said, I'm happy to have you here. He said, we're going to fight for a playoff spot in the Western Conference if we're lucky. You know, this is my first year here. We don't know what we have. You know, we know we have a great goaltender in Luongo. We have the Sedins. Burrow wasn't quite Burr yet. Kess wasn't Kess yet. Like, so he was pretty much telling me, like, listen, man, you know, we brought you in here to be physical. You know, this is what we want from you, but we don't know how good our team's going to be. And I was kind of like, fuck. Like, I just got traded from Tampa, where I knew what was going on, to now I'm in the West Coast. I don't really know much about the city. And I'm like, fuck, if we suck in a Canadian market, this is going to blow. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if I just got traded to a team that we're not going to make the playoffs, and, you know, I'm going to have to deal with being in a Canadian market, we're not doing well. And for whatever reason, we got off to a great start. We really gelled, man. Like, you know, we all didn't hang around with each other away from the rink. A lot of guys were different, and obviously guys are married and blah, blah, blah. But when we were in the dressing room, when we were practicing, and definitely when we were playing, I don't know, we had it. We had toughness. We had guys that chirped. We had skill. We had great goaltending. And then we had the city that just, you know, rallied around us. Like, no one expected us to be good that year. And boom, we won our division. And next thing you know, they had a 3-year stretch where they're one game away from winning the Stanley Cup. So I was a little nervous when I first got there, to answer your question, Jay, but, you know, we just took off, and, you know, I got in a bunch of fights early, and it just people liked me.
But like in Gillis specifically, like he's a bit of a different cat, right? Like, and he operates a little bit differently. Yeah. Was there anything that like really stood out to you, like coming into that situation and be like, this isn't Tampa anymore?
Well, the one thing he did do when we started having some success, because as you boys know, our travel in Vancouver is probably the worst in the league. It's by far top 5, right? So the one day I come to the rink, and I don't know, I probably had a couple night before, whatever, it's practice. And
probably
we have a meeting. Mike's like, all the leadership guys, like, we have a meeting with Mike and this doctor. I'm like, fuck, man, I just want to go home and have lunch and have a nap or something here. So he comes in, we have a meeting with this guy, and it's a sleep doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, we're going to make you guys wear a watch that tracks your sleep and tracks when you go to bed and wake up.
Oh, God.
So I'm thinking, what? I'm like, I'm about to call the NHLPA, being like, is this allowed, boys? Is this allowed? I'm like,
this is the quarantine before the quarantine.
Yeah,
like.
I'm like bribing Mason Raymond to wear my watch. I'm like, Mace, how much will it take for you to wear 2 watches? You know, like,
you think Big Brother's trying to watch you and take over?
Yeah, I'm like, Mace.
Fun times are over.
Yeah, I'm like, Mace, I know you go to bed early. You're married. You're a good guy. Wear my watch for me, please. Wear my watch.
Oh my God, that's great. That's a great story. We never heard that one before. Did you actually pull it off though? Like on a weekend, like if you, because you all had to wear the watch. So did you actually switch with somebody? I mean,
no, I wore it. So it ended up being like, they weren't really, you know, but it was funny. So
yeah,
we had a huge win in Calgary one night. So we were going on a huge road trip, but we started in Calgary, then we're going to the East Coast. You know, that's why we were going to wear them, because there was a lot of travel and time change. So we beat the Flames in the Saddledome like we always did. And then, boys, for whatever reason, the whole team goes out, right to Cowboys. I'm talking everyone. Maybe not the Sedins, but I'm talking about everyone else. So everyone, to 2 weeks later, got their, you know, so the doctor came in and did like a team like format before we did a one-on-one. And he's like, yeah, as you can tell here, boys, the night after the Calgary game, you guys didn't have much sleep after that one. We're like, oh, shit.
Holy man.
Yeah,
that's great.
You know, Wellwood, you know, so we had Kyle on the show, and he was talking about a story like
I got a good Willie story for you too.
Yeah, it was funny though, because it's like just talking to you now, like we can see your personality. So you're down to earth, you're super chill, and all your teammates, obviously, that's why they loved you, and Kyle included. But you know, he told us a story that all the players on the team, you know, especially, you know, we're talking about the Roxy here, would always sneak out the back. They'd always go and sneak out the back.
I heard.
And then here you are in the front, gathering the troops and telling everybody, come in the limo, and you bring in the girls and everybody like.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was never trying to really hide. Maybe I should have a couple times, but typically the guys that did come out were probably heading home after the Roxy or wherever we were, probably the Roxy some nights. Where for me, boys, if I had a day off, my party was just getting going then, right? So I was recruiting. You know, I was single. I'm like, listen, you know, everyone back to my house, and sure enough, it was pretty good. But
I got
a good Welly story, because I did hear that on your podcast. So me and Welly go out one day in Vancouver. We go out pretty good. We don't stay out too late, but we have a pretty good one. And we got practice the next day. And so I show up to the rink, and Willie Mitchell's like, so what'd you do to your boy Welly last night? And I'm like, what are you talking about, Mitch? He's like, I didn't even see Welly. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, go check the hot tub. I go in the hot tub area, and there's Welly sleeping beside the hot tub with one foot in the hot tub, 1 foot out of the hot tub. So now I'm like, oh fuck, Welly. So I give him a little bump. I'm like, Welly, you all right? He's like, oh, do we have any meetings? I'm like, no, we don't have any meetings today. He's like, come get me 10 minutes before practice. I'm like, all right. So boys, I go get Welly 10 minutes before practice. He gets dressed. And I'm not lying, boys. He was the best player on the ice that day.
No kidding.
The best player by far, like better than Sedins. I don't know if he was just focusing more or what, but I'm like, well, that was the best practice ever.
He slept in the hot tub. All the toxins left his body, right?
He had like a steamer, sauna, and then boom, he was the best player in practice. And it's safe to say after that me and Welly, we didn't spend quite as much time together. That was
my God.
He kind of learned his lesson.
Maybe he was too drunk to realize he wasn't in shape.
I don't know. He was, you know what? And Welly got a bad rap about that stuff too. Like,
No, I love Willie.
he was never going to win the fitness testing, nor was I. But, you know, let's just remember the playoffs, man. Welly was always one of our best players. So smart, good in the face-off circle, and tough, boys. Like, for a little guy, he'd get in there, didn't wear a visor.
Yeah.
So strong on the stick.
He was a great teammate, man. I love Welly.
Who would you say, Shane, is the most talented or most skilled player that you ever played with?
Mhm.
I was lucky to play with – I mean, you know, when it comes to, you know, obviously Chris Pronger, Scott Niedermayer, Vinny LeCavier, Marty St. Louis, Brad Richards.
Wow. Yeah.
And then when I did come to Vancouver, though, man, and as you boys know and everyone in Vancouver, you know, what the Sedins did together, you know, the way they made those no-look passes and the, you know, Hank would be looking this way and fire a backhand sauce right on Danny's tape. And Danny, like, it was just, to me, when I first saw it, I was like, man, first of all, how am I ever going to tell these two guys apart? And then I was like, you know, these guys are amazing. When you see them every day for the first couple of weeks, you're like, wow, these guys are insanely good. And yeah, man, they were probably the most two talented guys together that I played with throughout my whole career.
What's the most emotional moment you've seen them like that's come out of them, like in your short career with them? But
yeah,
you know, what's the most emotional memory of them reacting to something or getting loud in the locker room because of a bad, you know, incident on the ice or bad game, halfway through, whatever it is? What can you recall about that?
You know what? They're obviously, as everyone knows in Vancouver, they're stand-up guys, like the greatest guys in the world, and
world class. Yeah,
they're world class, and they're pretty even-keeled dudes. You know, I can remember them getting frustrated the first year against Chicago in the playoffs with Boley. You know, with Boley being all over him, and then, you know, if it was Buff or Burish or whoever, Keith, you know, and I just remember trying to talk to him through that series and just telling them, like, listen, boys, if you start to get frustrated, we're all fucked. Like, you know, you guys are our even kill guys. Like, if they get under your skin, they're going to know that they're definitely under my skin, right? They were under my skin before the series even started, or Bieksa or Kessler or Burroughs, because we had so many guys that had so much energy on that team with the four guys I just named. Throw Hordichuk in there, Ripper, Willie Mitchell. Like, we had so many guys that were ready to chirp and ready to fucking take a minor penalty before they knew what to do, where, you know, the Sedins were, you know, so chill and so calm and nothing really rattled them too much. So for me to answer your question, never really. That's what I loved about them the most. They were just so even keeled. And I say this a lot. What a lot of people don't know is they have a great sense of humor, man. Like, in the mornings, having coffee with them, you know, I'd love to sit down and have coffee with those guys in the morning and eat breakfast or play cards on the plane or put cards on the plane with them. They were actually really fun guys.
Like, their humor was more like cerebral, I guess, though. It was or like maybe sarcastic. It wasn't like dumb humor, like, you know, you see.
It wasn't in your face, yeah.
No, and a lot of times I truly believe they were laughing at me instead of with me. You know, they were laughing at me. It doesn't matter. As long as they were laughing, I was fine with me. Yeah.
Shane, how real was that hatred between you guys and the Blackhawks during that? Well, 3-year run, but the 2-year you were in.
It was real, boys. It was so real. I mean, and it started, you know, one of my biggest regrets is I had Seabrook. I don't know if you remember. There's a picture of it. I had Seabrook. I mean, I could have fucking drilled him through the ice, and I never did because, you know, the rules of hockey, like, you're not supposed to do that stuff. But as the rivalry went on and on and on, I look back at that. I was like, man, I should have let him up.
Yeah, maybe you left the mark there would have helped.
Yeah, because it was real, man. They hated us and we hated them. And I remember one time I was during the second year I was in Vancouver, and I was leaving the bar. I was somewhere it might have been Global. I don't know where it was, but I was with Big Buff, and Buff was walking with me. And I remember people in Vancouver were like saw me with Buff, and they're like, SOP, what the fuck, man? What are you doing?
Crossing the line.
Hey, he's just leaving too. Like, he was here too. I'm not doing anything with him. Like, and I love Buff. He's a great dude. But I was like, Buff, you got to get in the cab and get out of here, man. This hatred's real in Vancouver. I can't.
4 a.m. Vancouver, you don't want to be out there, man.
Yeah,
They're gonna turn on you pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I got to stay on the Chicago thing. Like, where did the hate come from? Like, it got to a point where it was so like, it's still regarded as like probably the biggest rivalry the Canucks have had. That's how much hate.
I mean,
where did it start stemming from your side of things? Like, as a player on the team, it's like you guys are going to battle against the Blackhawks. Here it is again. Where did it come from?
Yeah, I mean, it started that my first year there. Obviously, we had that line brawl in at the United Center in Chicago, and it kind of started right there. And then
escalated from that. Like,
yeah, then that first year in the playoffs, they beat us in 6, and then we had that fucking taste in our mouth of like, we hated them even more. And I don't think they won the cup that year. They ended up. So they lost, I think, in the conference finals that year. So we knew the next year going in that we were going to have to go through them eventually.
Yeah.
And so all year, man, every game was hated. Burr and Kessler.
They were chirping you guys relentlessly, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, it was, boys. I'm telling you, if we were mic'd up back in those days with those games, I mean, you couldn't play half the stuff that was being said. It was personal. It was vicious.
Wow.
Yeah, we hated them. It was great though, man. It was fucking so much fun to play in, and I mean, I know you guys in Van loved it, and. If I bump into people in Chicago and I say I played for the Canucks in those years, they still say like, "Wow, those games were unreal."
What do you think the Sedins, like the frustration they dealt with, like you were talking about, they had to go through that to kind of like figure out how to deal with it? Do you really think that is the reason why they were successful the year after?
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. And one thing about the Sedins too, and I thought this before I played with them, I didn't think they were. I thought they were soft and all this stuff and.
We all heard it. Everybody.
Yeah. Then you play with them, and you realize they're the farthest thing from it. Yeah, they're not going to drop their gloves and fight you or cross check you, but they took a beating. They went to the dirty areas. They got abused in front of the net. They got abused in the corners. And I played with Dave Bolin in Florida for a little bit, who turned out to be a great guy, but I fucking used to want to kill him. And he said his main job every night he played against us was just to get under the Sedin skin and just keep sticking them and keep kind of. And I don't care who you are, it's going to eventually get to you. And he took those boys off their game because he focused on them so much.
But Shane, after you left Vancouver and you played in other cities, did you notice maybe the Sedin reputation, did it get better? Did people start respecting him a little bit more, even though maybe they didn't express it? Because in Vancouver, it was always a thought that, people think they're weak or they're not strong players.
Well, even after 2011, like if you're talking about the toughness in the 2011 finals, there is still like a sentiment out there that the Sedins were still a little too soft. Like the Brad Marchand, punching Danny like repeatedly, and he's just eating them.
I know.
I gotta admit, as a fan, that was tough, and it still kind of gives me a little bit of like a nightmare thinking about like, you gotta like respond, but like to answer Nav's question, and then I went off a little extra there, but
yeah. No, I mean, I remember watching that too, and I was like, fuck, if I was on the ice, someone got to jump in there and grab him because, the Sedins, that's not their, that doesn't mean they're not tough, It just means that they've never probably even been in a fight, right? So they're not going to fight. Should have Danny punched them back a bit, probably, but I would have liked to seen someone get in there and grab them. But I think to answer your question about when other teams, when we played against the Canucks, I just think as the Sedin's career went on, people just respected how good they were, how consistent they were. Because, boys, the hardest thing about the NHL is consistency. You ask anyone that plays in the league, like, I could be good for a week, and then next week be shit. Where these guys that are good every single night in, night out for 82, I mean, that's like fucking next level. So I think from guys that I played with after I played with the Sedins, just respect the fact that they were that good night in, night out. And not only that, year in and year out, man. And always played in the playoffs. Like, they played a lot of hockey.
We were just, everybody's watching The Last Dance, and, Michael Jordan, the quote about, like, there's no room to be nice. Like, you have to kind of have that nastiness to you. Do you think that's what held the Sedins back from winning did they lack nastiness in their game, or do you think that didn't really, for their game, it didn't have an impact? I mean, it's just an open question here, but
no, I see what you're saying, but and like from an aspect of like, you see MJ in that Last Dance, which, I've been watching, it was unbelievable. I'm sad.
Amazing. Yeah.
The way that MJ practiced every day, like, that's how the Twins were, man. Like, they came in, they did their thing every day. They worked hard. They did extra stuff in the gym. Like, fuck, they got points every night. But even if they didn't get points one night, which didn't happen very often, that next day, you know, they weren't sulking. They weren't, you know, they came in, they did their thing, they worked out, they practiced hard, they answered the media questions, and boom, they're ready to go the next night.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were such good pros that, you know, for me, I would just look at it and be like, you know, I was a little bit different, obviously. I like to have fun at the rink and keep boys loose. And when it's time to practice, I practice. But, you know, they were just such pros that, you know, they were great for our team because we had so many guys that, you know, our dressing room was a chirp fest, boys. Like, it was fucking, like, if you were coming in there, like, heads up, you better be ready to get chirped. And it was great. But, you know, obviously no one chirped the Sedins, and they didn't chirp anyone. And, you know, we all had their back. And they were honestly two of my favorite players, people I ever played with, man. And,
but to answer that question, like, do you think, you know, I don't want to throw you under the bus, you know, because you have a good relationship.
Yeah,
but do you think they lacked that little bit? Do you think that nastiness that they lacked is why they didn't close the deal? Or
I mean, I think personally, and this involves me, is why I think it. I think when they got rid of, you know, myself, Hordichuk, I think Ripper didn't play that whole year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he had some, obviously he was dealing with some stuff, so that hurt. I don't know, man. I just think that time in the finals, it wasn't the Sedins. It just, their team toughness didn't look like it once was.
And they were banged up too, yeah.
They were banged up, and it just, I think, I don't know. If you could have thrown Hordichuk in the lineup in that finals, and he would have fought Sean Thornton right away.
Yeah, could have stopped something. Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, I mean, Shane, you were giving us the anecdote earlier where you let up on Keats or on Seabrook there, and you know the Chicago Blackhawks never had that type of mentality when it came to, you know, battling the Vancouver Canucks. Any inch that they could take against the Canucks, they would have taken it, and in any means necessary. It wasn't an ethical battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
And yeah, I mean, like if the Canucks had brought a little bit more fire to that series, I think that you know, they would have went far. But I guess the directive at that time was, you know, take the bumps and score on the power play, right? So
yeah, I remember the second year we were playing them. Fuck, Buff scored like 2 and like was bumping the Longo and shit. So at the end of the game, I went over to Buff and I gave him like 3 or 4 heavy cross checks. Got a penalty. They ended up scoring on the power play to make it like 4-1. So the next day I had a meeting with Mike Gillis, and Mike's like, "Fuck, Obes, you got to, like, you know, keep your emotions in check." I'm like, Mike, the guy was going like this right in the middle of the rink. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't control that. I know you're probably right, but I'm not going to let that happen. Like, especially when we're losing.
I don't know. If Mike is right there. I mean, well, now let me just say this. Like, I don't know if Mike's mentality there is right. I think I'm more like, I agree with your instincts as just a competitor, you know.
I mean, if you're gonna beat us at home, you're gonna fucking go home with some bumps and bruises.
No, that to me, I couldn't agree more with Shane. I think that's what we lacked again in 2011 is if you're losing in a game like the game Marchand was punching Daniel in the face, if somebody like they had toughness like yourself or Darcy, come in front and they punch Marchand in the face, at least send a message for games, you know, 4 and 5 to say, okay, you can't do that to our best player. Just like, you know, when you hit Bufflin, it's like the game's over. So if you do take a bit of a shot on him, it's a message for the rest of the series. So I don't agree with them saying no, not to do that.
And another thing that turned that Boston series around, I was just watching, obviously, like you guys, was when Romer fucking knocked out Nathan Hort. Remember that?
Yeah.
So Romer kind of, I love Romer too, and I thought it was, you know, that's hockey.
A fucking clean hit. Like,
but it kind of woke the Bruins up a bit. It kind of woke the Bruins up a bit, and they put Thordy in the lineup, and then, you know, Thordy.
No answer on the Canucks side.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of.
This is such a hard conversation for me because, like, I really like the beauty, or I like to, you know, believe in the beauty of the game that you don't have to, you know, have that physical toughness that goes beyond the rules of the game. But you know, it's such a tough call. Like, you want to have those skilled plays, you want to have the best players perform at the best time. But again, it is part of it where, like you said, if the Canucks had a little bit more toughness and a little bit more grit, maybe they grind the Bruins down a little bit more, or allow for their skilled players to have more space. But it's such a tough one.
It's all timing too, right? Like, let's put the Sedins in their prime right now, in the way the NHL game is right now.
Oh man. I
mean, they're, you know, Hank and Danny probably win a couple Stanley Cups and a couple Conn Smythes. Like,
it'd be like Yager and Lemieux, man. Like,
if they don't have to deal with guys cross-checking them and hooking them and punching them in the face, and, you know, like that wears on guys, man, for a 7-game series, especially when you're that talented of a player. Like, I don't think the reason the Canucks didn't get it done that year was because the Sedins weren't tough enough. I just think.
Well, that's what we're trying to, you know.
Yeah,
I would say
I would say that's not the reason they didn't get it done. I mean, listen, boys, they went to Game 7.
Yeah, one game.
Yeah. One
freaking game.
It's hard to win the cup, and
Shane, you can tell, man, it haunts us. It just haunts us all. But hey, let's
until the next time.
We're getting too depressed now. Let's I want to take it back. You know, we got the king of controversy here, Shane O'Brien. You know, you
I
alluded,
thought that was you, TJ.
yeah, I'm the on the fan side of things. I might be the king of controversy, but on the player sides, it's Shane. But you know, I want to you alluded to another incident that occurred, and I was going to ask you about, you know, to get more details out of you here. In 2010, you know, when you were out partying at the Roxy, I think this is when there was a hilarious picture Deadspin. You remember those guys?
Mm-hmm.
This picture of you, you know, you're doing the Spider-Man sling or something.
Yeah.
There, Shane, you can maybe tell. Yeah, and then you ended up being late for the practice the next Monday morning, 11 a.m. practice, and then AV benches you for a week. He makes you do a bag skate first. Then he says to stay away from the team until next Sunday.
Yeah.
What happened there? Like, give us the details, man. That's crazy.
I'll
You
give you
banned from the team for a week.
I'll give you
Pretty
that. I'll give you the full details. So, the thing that makes it worse, I guess, is it was a Sunday. We played Saturday in San Jose, beat San Jose. We were flying back. So we got in too late Saturday night to do anything. So I went home, went to bed, and then the next day, me and Rick Rippon actually and a few of the other boys went out, you know, during the day, and you know, we were bouncing around Yale Town and
Started day drinking. Okay.
yeah, we were having a few during the day, and you know, I stayed a little bit later than the boys, but I wasn't too late, and I was heading home, and I was actually walking by the Roxy by myself, and it was probably midnight, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll go in for one. So I was like, I go in for probably more than one, but I go in for a couple. I go back to my house that night, and you know, I'm a young, dumb, single guy. I don't have a fucking alarm clock. So I go to plug my iPhone in, and I guess I didn't plug her in far enough, boys, because anyways, I woke up, my phone was dead. Oh. So it finally charges up, and it's like, I think practice is probably at 10 or 11. So it was a half an hour before practice was going to start.
Oh, fuck.
So I'm scrambling. I jump in my truck. I'm fucking speeding to the gym place. I'm talking to Mike Bernstein, our medical guy. I'm like, Bernie, I'm on my way. My phone died. So I get there, I throw my gitch on. I'm just in there about to get ready as the boys are going on the ice. So our PR guy comes over, our trainer is like, hey, AV's not going to let you go on the ice. And I'm like, fuck that. I can get out. Like, let me go practice with the boys and we can take care of it after. And he's like, no, you're not practicing. Go work out. So I went and worked out. And then I was sitting in the talks room at Roger Takahashi's office after I worked out. And obviously AV has his media. So TC Carlin comes in. I'm like, TC, man, what did AV say? And he's like, well, they asked about you about 10 times, and he answered 10 times that he's not going to talk about you. And I'm like, fuck, that's not good, is it? He's like, probably not. So I had a meeting with the GM the next day and AV, and they basically said, listen, we're going to suspend you with pay. So I was like, all right, with pay. You're not going on the California trip, which stung because I had some stuff lined up in California.
Man.
And then, boys, I was bag skating by myself. Then they were making me run through Stanley Park. I'm like running by people. People are like fans, like, hey, OB. I'm like, fuck, this is embarrassing. And you know, but I on all honesty, when I came back, I felt bad for my teammates because, you know, we were in the midst of winning a division, and you know, I missed 3 games, and I made it the distraction. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I never wanted to be a distraction negatively to the boys. And at the end of the day, all I care about is my teammates. And, but you know what? They forgive me. And, you know, we went on to have a decent playoff run.
Yeah. And Shane, what was your relationship like with Alain Vigneault?
You know what? Good question. You know what? My relationship. So I had a meeting with AV. I had a meeting with Mike and AV. And then the next day or the day before they left for the road, AV's like, come in and see me. So I asked the trainer what time he gets there. And he gets there fucking early, boys. He gets there like 7. Wow. So I got there at like 7:15. I was sitting in a chair outside his office. So when he showed up, I was already sitting there because I wanted him to know that I felt bad. And you know, so he said, wait here. And he went in and did his thing, grabbed his coffee. And then we went in and had a conversation with each other for, you know, it was a good half hour. And after that conversation was probably the best our relationship ever was. Not that it was bad before. I mean, we never really chirped each other or anything like that. I just, you know, I thought I deserved more minutes at times and he thought my role was whatever. And that's his job as a coach. But I would say after that, our relationship got better. And I saw AV when he was coach of the Rangers. Actually, I forget what team I was with. And I saw him in the hallway and we had a good laugh with each other about the good old days. So yeah, me and AV were all good.
Okay.
Is there anybody like you had, you know, bad blood with during your playing days that you still maybe have a little bad blood? Like you, not necessarily like malcontent, but you don't want to talk to them ever again. Like, is there
Bob Hartley?
Yeah, Bob Hartley. If I saw Bob Hartley walking down the street, it would not be good for Bob Hartley. and the reason I say that, boys, is listen, you're the coach of an NHL team. You don't like me. You don't like me as a player. Fine, that's your job. You don't want to play me. You think I'm dog shit. But when you start coming at me as a person that has nothing to do with hockey, just because you don't fucking like me, now we got issues. And Bob made it so personal in Calgary. Didn't even give me a chance as a player. Just didn't like me as a guy for whatever reason. And yeah, man, we did not get along.
So Shane, if Tortorella would have gotten into the locker room, I'm sure we know which side you would have been on.
I would have let them go, and I would have been cheering Torts on. Torts is yelling at me down the bench. She's like, "Oh, how do you play for this fucking guy?" I'm like, "I don't even want to play for him, Torts. I'm trying to get traded right now, but nobody fucking wants me."
He didn't even put you on the ice.
And he's losing his mind, and Torts is like, "I'm coming for him." I'm like, "All right, Torts, you come for him." And then sure enough, boys, I got a 10-minute misconduct. Cassian was like chasing me around, and fucking we both got 10. And I'm in there taking my wheels off, my skates off, and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And boys, Hartley walks in, and Torts, he would have had him, but Big Earn, Brian McGrattan broke it up, or else it would have been on.
Man,
that's awesome.
Like, it's amazing that like through everything that Tortorella has gone through in his career, that's probably going to be the one thing that he's remembered for after everything is said. Maybe the cup, because it happened so early in his career. But if he gets another cup, yeah. But like if you think about Tortorella, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Totally.
Either his battles with Brooksy or the Flames altercation with Hartley, which is insane.
Yeah,
Let's meet in the hallway, Torts.
Yeah, and you know what? I had my boy Brad Richardson on my podcast last week, and we were talking about it because he was playing for Van and at the time. And you know what? I was just like, I thought it was such a bush league move, boys, on our part by Calgary. Like, we had Big Earn, who was our tough guy. Bob Hartley was a fucking backup junior B goalie that never been punched in his face. And we're going to go into Vancouver on a Hockey Night in Canada when they were in the playoffs fighting for, like, they were up there in the division.
Yeah.
We're dead last. We suck. We're going to go in there, and now we're going to start a line brawl because Bob Hartley wants to pretend that he's tough on Hockey Night in Canada. Mm-hmm. And bottom line is, Torts ends up looking like the bad guy out of it. Yeah, it's always put a sour taste in my mouth because, yeah, Torts could have started the Sedins, but Bob knows that Torts is such a maniac that if you start 5 meatheads, he's starting his meatheads. That's just the way Torts is.
Exactly.
Well, what else is he gonna do? Exactly. Hartley played his card.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, Shane. I mean, for as much as he looked bad after all that, there's a lot of respect for Torts for what he did there, standing up for his team, and you can always love a guy who's gonna have the team's back. I mean, we've had other controversial things with Torts that might have screwed up our team, but that one aspect of Torts is that he'll always go to bat for his boys, and you know about that, right? So
I think the best picture was Kevin Bieksa on the left side with his jersey off, just standing there, staring, looking what's happening.
Chirping me.
That was too funny. Was he chirping?
Chirping me. I'm like, the fuck you chirping me for, Juice? Like, what are we gonna do now? We're like, I'm not gonna fight you in the hallway here. Like, but that's Bieksa. He loves chirping.
Yeah.
You gotta love him.
So we're gonna wrap it down here. We're gonna do a rapid Larch. It's 10 questions I told you about.
Let's do it.
Right before we get to that, I'm gonna ask you about NFL because I was listening to a clip. You did a hit on 650. Like you don't really have a team, I guess, with the NFL. You were cheering for the Ravens back then. Who's your team right now? I just gotta ask you.
I guess, yeah. It's when I was in Cincy in the minors, I cheered for the Bengals. In Nashville, I was cheering for Tennessee. Like, I really don't have a team, man. I guess I was going to jump on the LA Rams bandwagon, and then last year they kind of shit the bed, so I don't know if I can do that. But
Ravens are a good bet now.
Ravens have a good squad.
Jackson, so.
I kind of want to jump on the LA Chargers bandwagon just because they don't get a lot of love out here. It's all Rams, but I mean, I don't know. They got Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback this year. I don't know if I can jump on that or not. You know what I mean?
They're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But all right, so where we go. Last part of the interview here. It's called Rapid Larch, Shane. So all you got to do, as fast as you can, answer the questions. If you can't answer it, hit pass. I'll come back to it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You ready?
Let's do it.
Can't think, okay? You're just gonna answer.
There's no problem not thinking, bro. No
All right. First question. These are softballs too. Don't worry about it.
All right.
What is the closest place to the Roxy outside of Vancouver?
Hyde nightclub in LA.
Okay. Oh, I've been there. It's pretty good, man. Boulevard 3 and Hyde are my two favorite places in LA.
Yeah, that was a good spot.
All right. What's the best city to party in outside of Vancouver?
Toronto, New York, LA, Montreal. Those 4.
Yeah, Montreal. Shea Prairie. Let me edit that out. Who picked up more girls, Edler or Bieksa?
Pass.
Ask me after, I'll give you the answer.
Who's a bigger beauty, Bieksa or Kessler?
Bieksa.
Oh, okay.
But fuck
Who's a
Kessler,
better wingman, Tanner Glass or Darcy Hordichuk?
Tanner Glass.
Tanner Glass. Okay. Hoser, David Clarkson or Steve Ott?
I didn't hear the start of that question. Sorry.
Who is a bigger hoser, David Clarkson or Steve Ott?
Clarkson.
Okay.
I put that question in there because your fight list is like amazing. It's like, who is this guy? Who has he not fought here?
Yeah,
Like,
me and
Jesus
Clarkson,
Christ.
we had some good ones now.
Are you an SOB?
Yes. In a good way. In a good way. In a good way. In a good way.
What is your greatest memory in the NHL?
My first NHL goal.
Nice. If you could have one do-over in your entire career, what would it be?
I would have made sure my iPhone was plugged in.
Last question for Rapid Larch with Shane O'Brien. Who's the toughest fighter you've ever fought?
Derek Bugart.
Derek Bugart. Oh, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Strong, but he's a good guy.
He was a beauty.
Well, that's it for us with you, Shane. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for jumping on with us at the LarschCast here. This interview will be up shortly. You can, everybody listening, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, subscribe to this video on YouTube. Do us all a favor. You know, we're here for the fans, all the diehard fans of the Canucks and also NFL. We're here. We're going to make sure you guys enjoy your experience without the bullshit of media that you hear sometimes. Shane knows all about that controversy, right? So thank you, Shane. Any last words for us before you go?
We're all Canucks.
There you go.
Thanks for having me.
Shane, you got anything you want to plug before you go?
No, just listen to my boys, Ran Deep and Dano on Reach Deep every Wednesday. We do it Sportnext 650. We've been doing it for a while. Those guys are beauties. If you want some, Southern California Point Breakaway with the Athletic Weekly, we've had some good guests. Check us out. We're just trying to make people laugh and keep it real.
That was the Athletic Point Break podcast, right?
Point Breakaway.
Point Breakaway podcast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go, everybody. Thank you, Shane. Enjoy.
Thanks, Shane. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, boys.
Shane. Thank you, man.
Thanks, boys.